What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and we are live for Podcasting Business School. It's a show where I teach you how to love your podcast like a hobby, but build it like a business. And today, I've got somebody. If you're watching the live stream, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, we've got two bald guys in one podcast. High energy, smooth. I got the glow coming off my dome today. Mr. Evan Money is in the house, and this guy's story is going to knock your socks off. His business experience is going to blow you away. I'm so curious about so many things, but I promise to stay on topic and not go too broad. We're going to go deep with Evan Money today. Evan, welcome to Podcasting Business School.
Man, Adam, so excited to be here. And again, I was going off your old website and I was ready to talk about my hair envy. And then you show up like that. And I'm like, he's one of me. Yes, I feel it.
This is my pandemic cut, man. I was like, let's just do this. I got a good shaped head for it now. It's the kind of wide, symmetrical, I've been told that if you're going to go bald, you have to make sure that you don't look like a women's roll-on deodorant. Like that's what you don't want to look like. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like we both pull it off well. How long have you been shaving the domes? All your branding is clean shave.
Yes. So mine, wow, it's been over a decade. I would say almost 15 years. And so first of all, we have to thank our predecessors, Adam. We have to thank Telly Savalas. We have to thank these guys that have gone before, Yul Brynner, right? These guys that have paved the way. And then, of course, Michael Jordan was really the first one to kind of make it cool. And I have to tell you my story, though. So I always had like a buzz cut. So I had it long, way back. My kids are like, Dad, you had long hair. Wow. But I loved the buzz cut. That was kind of my thing, flat top, just short. But then I remember just for maintenance, right? It just kept getting a little shorter. I remember the day I'm in the convenience store. It was 7-Eleven, Circle K, whatever. You know, they have those mirrors up, the
security member. Yeah.
So I glance up and I could see the back and I'm like, no, I put the tail between my legs, dropped the water bottle, went home and okay, that's it. So that was the day.
Oh man, that's all my buddies started making fun of me, like your hair's getting pretty thin, Adam. I'm like, I can't take this anymore. And then the pandemic happened. I'm like, I'll go for a place of frugality where I'm like, I can save $40, every couple of weeks or whatever from going to the old salons. Let's do this.
There you go.
So before we deep dive too much on our baldness, we definitely need to talk about a couple other interesting things about you. One of the things that I'm most curious about, you have to tell us the story about why you and your wife get married every year. This is I find this fascinating.
All right. So first of all, we gotta talk about the bald elephant in the room, right? So people look at my last name and they're like, is that really his last name? Where's he from? What's going on? So yes, Money really is my last name. And to my bride's credit, in LA, this is a big deal, Adam. I don't know about where you're from, but in LA, it's a big deal. She was unashamed to marry Money. Okay. But when she did marry me, she found out real quick it was in name only. And she was like, I know you didn't have a lot of money, but I thought there'd be a little bit. It was like, nope, see all those red marks and negatives, and yep, that's where we're at. So I come from a long way back. But when my bride and I first got together, we were two peas in a pod because I used to get made fun of all the time. Like, have you seen too many Disney movies? And there's no such thing as happily ever after. And all that my bride and I saw, throughout the world, whether it be in person, friends, relatives, TV, movies, whatever. We only saw three options. Three options when you were getting married. So you could either be married and miserable. We saw a lot of that, Adam. Our parents modeled that beautifully. We saw it just everywhere, right? Married and miserable. You could be divorced and desperate. That was the second one. Lots of that. Or you could be single and cynical. That was the third, single and cynical. And so those are the only three options we saw as being married. And I'm like, I refuse, not out of a love or this amazing high thing. I refuse out of pure rebellion. I was like, I am not living that way. Quick, give me the blue pill, get me out of here, right? I've got to get out of this. And so we hunkered down. We said, there has to be a way to live happily ever after. We have to go find it. And so my bride came up with the idea of, hey, let's get remarried in a different state or country every year. And I was like, oh, you want to do what? Like, we don't have any money. What are you talking about? This is crazy. But then I thought for a second, I said, if we're going to get married every year, that means we get a honeymoon every year. Yes, I'm in. Yes, let's do this. And so in my, this is how big I could think back then. So this is circa 1997. Let's go way back. Okay, circa 97. I'm like, okay, she wants to get remarried, different state or country every year. There's no way. I mean, we're still trying to pay off the honeymoon when we first got married. I mean, there's no money. I'm like, I got to do something. So in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I know. We can go to Tijuana, Mexico, wedding destination capital of the world. So that's how big I could think. It was about a 2.5-hour drive. I figured we'd cross the border to Tijuana, buy a $10 sundress, go to the steps of some old broken down Catholic church. And I'm like, okay, we'd be good. So that was how big I could think. But here's what I love about God. He totally has a sense of humor because man plans and God laughs, right? So we're like, yeah, I'm going to have long hair forever. Okay. So that year, so we've been married. We had our first wedding. And then on our first anniversary, we ended up, this is so true, we ended up winning an all-expense-paid trip to Paris, France, Adam, for 2 weeks. And on our first anniversary, on the exact day, we got remarried at the Palace of Versailles, Adam, all 720,000 square feet. So for those that aren't familiar with the Palace of Versailles, that's bigger than Costco, okay? So I'm looking at this place going, this is incredible. This is like the polar opposite of Tijuana. No offense to those from Tijuana. And I was like, wow. So ever since that moment, I was in. I'm like, all right, how can we pull this off? How can we get creative? So we did it for so long with no money. Now that we have lots of money, our full creativity. And so it's just fun and exciting. And what that does, Adam, it puts us in 2 states. Because you is talking about podcast success and talking about fitness success and life success. It's all about your state of mind, right? What state are you in? And that's Tony Robbins 101. But it puts us in 2 states. I'm either having a post-honeymoon bliss, which we're in right now, which is awesome, yes, or we're in this exciting time of planning the next dream. Really, it's just a dream vacation because there's no stress. It's just fun. So we are planning. We bought the tickets. It's all set. I'm still moving some things around, but we are set for wedding number 28 in Dubai. The top of the Burj, I'm pronouncing it wrong, so apologize to all my Dubaian friends, the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building. We're going to get married at the top of there.
Oh, my God. Now, just to set the record straight, I have heard that Tijuana is considered the Versailles of Mexico. So, I mean, evens out. Dude, that's crazy. And I love the state things. I feel like we can pull that obviously into other areas of our life. And you mentioned Tony Robbins. That's somebody that I really look up to in the space. And like, I know that one of the things that you are really well known for is going after big dreams in your own life, but also helping other people achieve like giant things. Like you're like the dream creator. You bring dreams to reality. And I know for a fact, because I talk to them almost on a daily basis, we've got podcasters in the audience that their dream is to kind of feel like they're a media member and then grow that and grow an audience and like feel like they're being listened to. And then down the road, like maybe they do this full time like I do, or they have a brand that pays all the bills. What would you say if you could kind of just, you actually are like, look at them and point at them and grab a hold of them and be like, all right, here's where we start. Here, if you're going after a big dream, here's how we kick it off. And here's how we make sure that we follow through. What would you say to those people?
All right. So what I would say, I'd grab them by the microphone, right? Shake them a little bit. And I would ask this question, because if you want a better life, you have to ask better questions. And the best question you can start asking is of yourself, right? Because, Thomas Dexter Jakes taught me this one about, you are exactly in life where you are because of who you listen to. And so too often, all of us, listen to ourselves. So you never want to listen to yourself. You want to talk to yourself. Okay, never listen, right? Because 99% of the time, it's not very good, right? So it's all about who are you listening to? And so asking better questions. So a great question I want to ask those people that are with us right now is, what if you had it all and you didn't even know it? What if you had it all and you didn't even know it? Because if you're trying to base your happiness, your arrival, your success, your fulfillment on the arbitrary number of listeners, then your life is going to be continually filled with pain and problems. And you're just going to have this doom loop of pain and problems. Because you think, right, well, as soon as I get to 1 million downloads or 10 million downloads, pick a number, right? Whatever number you get to, this arbitrary number of success, you will find that nothing changes because the outside cannot change the inside. And then what happens is you get to this 10 million download and you're like, wow, I'm still the same. Nothing's changed. Wait a minute, I've been fooled. Darn it. Oh no, it must be 100 million downloads. It must be 1 billion downloads. It must be this or that. And you continue to keep changing the next. It's going to be the next. Next time will be different. We see this in relationships. Oh, the next marriage is going to be different. No, sorry. Okay. Oh, the next haircut's going to be different. Oh, the next thing's going to be different. So if you keep going for that, that is the doom loop of pain and problems. So, and it all comes down, right? If you get to the root, right? Like the word radical. I love the word radical. You know, you talk about Jesus being radical. He was like the ultimate radical. Radical defined means get to the root. So if we get to the root of all of this question, right, is if you can't be fulfilled and happy now, you'll never be fulfilled and happy. So too many people put this, oh, it's got to be this big dream. And once I get it, then everything's going to, no. So that's the first thing I help people deconstruct. And I learned this along the way myself personally. I also learned it through high-level achievers. I remember Deion Sanders shared this with me one time. He said, the lowest point of my life, now we're going old school football, right? That's some of my stuff. He said, the lowest point of my life is when I won my first Super Bowl. I was like, how is that possible? That's the ultimate, right? And he goes, yeah, everyone was telling me, man, as soon as you win the Super Bowl's the ultimate. Super Bowl's the ultimate. I mean, he had massive fame, massive money. He was one of the rarest two-sport athletes. People forget how just amazingly physically talented he was. He wasn't hitting, 150 in baseball, right? He was actually hitting the ball. He was actually making great plays. He's in the World Series. He's running, making plays in football. He's just a phenomenal athlete. He had it all, right? Had the Jerry curl, had all the money, all the sponsorship, right? And he kept being told, like, oh, well, as soon as I get to the Super Bowl, he said it took him less than 15 minutes after the end of the game to fall into this depression. Because he's like, they lied to me, right? This trophy's supposed to do something, right? Because he kept making it all about this thing. And once he realized, it took him a while to get his bearing. Once he realized, like, that's not it. I've already have it all. Duh! Right? So some people get caught up with that, whether it's money, whether it's fame, whether it's downloads, whether it's, I'm a media guy now. You want to be a media guy? Here's all you need to do. Go get a fedora and put a little white card with the word press on it and stick it in the little thing and show up to any event and they will let you in.
Boom.
Okay. So that's a deep dive, but that's really where it's all at.
Well, I like the idea of like chasing the horizon line. That's what I think of with what you just described. Like we will never get there. And I see that a lot in this space because I'm talking to people trying to grow brands for the first time. A lot of them are side hustling and they've never been the person in charge, right? They've always been the employee punching the clock. So it's a totally different world. And then all of a sudden they're like, all right, first goal, 500 downloads an episode. All right. And then they check that off and they're happy for like 1 second, like you said. And then it's like, but I'm not at 1,000. It always, that next part of the phrase is, but I'm not at XYZ. Same thing in the weight loss space. I've lost 50, but I'm not at 100 pounds.
Yes.
And we continually do this. So I 100% agree with you. And I try to challenge myself to think, like I'm big into the stoicism and the daily stoic. And I'm like, daily stoic, what do you have for me today? And I'm always challenging myself to think like, what am I happy about now? Like I have goals. I want to grow. I want that to be a thing in my life, but not everything. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you, because here's the thing. I'm talking to me too. So just this isn't like, oh yeah, I got it all figured out. I never do. It's like, no, I'm still talking to me. That's why I love being here. And a great quote I've shared with some of our mastermind groups that really landed. And it's a timeless quote, but it says, comparison is the thief of all joy. comparison is the thief of all joy. Teddy Roosevelt actually said that. And it's like, oh. And so I'm working with my young adults on this. I'm looking at everything else. And even this morning or last night, I had to remind myself of like, wait a minute, whose race am I running? Right? Like, you don't have to know anything about track and field, but if Olympics are coming up, Summer Olympics, right? But if you watch the 100-yard dash and you're watching these guys run and they're doing this, they're not winning. Okay. It's whose race am I running? Who says, right? Again, it goes back to these arbitrary numbers, right? Who says I'm supposed to have X amount of downloads? Says who, right? And we've all said this at one time or another with our podcast, it's like, if I could just reach one person, remember that?
Yeah.
If I could just change one person's life. Oh, well, okay, well, I did one. It must be at 5 or 10, right? It's like, wait a minute, let's go back to that one download, right? So yeah, just that comparison side, that comparitis, as another friend of mine says, Angel, comparitis, like it's on me, get it off me, compare it can creep up so much. And just this daily reminder of like, again, whose race am I running? Whose podcast am I doing, right? I'm not doing that guy's podcast. I'm doing my podcast. And again, getting caught up in the doom loop of pain and problems and arbitrary pretend numbers, man, that's a rough way to live.
Yeah, there is a famous on this show a mastermind story that of me attending a mastermind, and it was like a horseshoe, and the goal was to go around the horseshoe and everybody to state their yearly goal. And I'm the last person. There's probably 25, 30 podcasters in the room. Every single one of them sets an income goal, and they keep on getting bigger and bigger. It turns into a pissing contest. It's like 500,000, million, 5 million, 10 million. It's like $10 billion by the time it gets to me. And then I shout out a goal. I talk about how many days I want to take off, what time I want to pick up my kids, how many times per week I want to drop off my kids and pick up my kids. And those are my goals. And more than half the room at our next break came up to me and said, I need to set goals like you. And I was like, these are conversations that we need to have.
Yes.
Like, it's not just like, oh, what's Joe Schmo podcaster doing? Okay, that I want to be like him. So that needs to be my goal. Like what, like you said, what race am I running and why am I running that race? So that's something that we really need to consider when we're setting goals like this. Cause a lot of us just get beat up by these goals, right? We feel that pressure. We don't get there. And then a lot of times that beats us down and we quit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause they think, right, like the goal is the only ingredient, right? It's like, well, what happens if I just, right, like this, like anything that we cook or make or whatever, there's more than one ingredient, right? And people get so caught up in this goals thing. And it's like, if all you have is goals, again, your life is filled with pain and problems. It's about, again, realizing the bigger thing around that. And then again, going back to asking your question, well, why, right? Why is this the goal? Where is this coming from? Why do I want to do this? And then it's like, oh, I don't really want to do this after all, right? What I really want is that. And that's why clarity is power. I tell people this all the time. And, per your mastermind, right? Of like, okay, I'm going to, the toxic words, like I'm going to crush this and we're going to go do this. And yeah. I don't want to crush anybody, man. I don't want to grind anything. Like I'm a car collector. I got lots of cool cars. I don't want to grind any gears in my car, right? Like you can go grind over there. I want to flow. I want to soar. And to your point about, taking days off and doing all this stuff, I equate it to a snow globe, right? We've all had those snow globes where you're shaking them, right? And when you shake the snow globe, what happens, right? All the stuff's going around, right? You can't see, right? It's not clear. You have to set the snow globe down and let everything settle in order to get clarity in your life. And so many people chasing these arbitrary goals, right? All they're doing is this 24/7, shaking their snow globe. And then when they're away from their computer, away from their show, right? They pick up their cell snow globe and all they're doing is this, right? And even take the snow globe to bed with you and shake it up before you go to bed. Shake it up and then put it down and pick it up again. So you can't find any clarity shaking your snow globe all the time. So for you, right, clarity is power when it comes from taking time off, taking things away. I mean, once a week, I take a sabbatical from all social, my cell phone, everything. And it's so awesome. It's just like,
yes.
People are just like, dude, where's your phone? I'm like, I don't have it. I don't, again, I chose it. I realized, the more I touch my wife, the happier we are. So I stopped touching my phone, started touching my bride.
There you
I was
go.
like, I'm just going to touch her. This will be more exciting. But yeah, it's
Bonus.
all about just setting that snow globe down.
It's interesting. I'm very frugal. And if I can kind of do these frugality hacks, I can program myself to do certain things. I'm spending way less time on my cell phone because I jumped off of one of the major carriers and I started using a carrier called Ting Wireless, Ting. And it's a pay how much you use it, data, text, and talk. The more you use it, the more you get charged. So the charge starts at like $5 a month. And if you don't ever use it for anything, you pay $5 a month. But so just by doing that, like the data is the most expensive thing. I hacked this first. I'm like, okay, anytime I leave the house, I'm putting it on airplane mode.
Yeah,
I'm not using roaming data. So it's kind of like old school phone. I only call people when I'm at home because I don't want to have these roaming data charges. So I go like, how low can I get my cell phone bill? And like my personal best right now is $17 in 1 month. I was like, score. So little things like that have helped me a lot to kind of hack up the way my brain works with this frugality thing. But
no, I want to speak into that because because there's other people that are listening are like, oh, me too, Adam, me too. And it's not this shame thing, and it's not this bullshit thing. It's like, hey, that's how my brain works, and so I'm going to use that to my advantage instead of listening to myself and compare with everybody else. Oh, I should be more like him. I should be more like him. I should be more free with my money. And No. It's understanding how perfectly and wonderfully you were made, right? I love looking at the DNA, strands, right, and the circles, and seeing the beauty and realizing that all of our DNA stuff is different. And so it really comes down to, I'll throw out a Mike Tyson quote here. I watched his, it was a little too long, but it was still worth it. He had this big 4-hour documentary about the rise and fall. And that was kind of my era. And I remember, just watching it and this whole thing. And so, Mike rose, fall, like this whole thing, right? And realizing he's really close to my age. And I was like, dude, he looks really old. But there was a scene where they asked him when he first got his face tattoo, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, why did you get a face tattoo? And he literally said, because I hate myself. He goes, I hate looking in the mirror at myself. So I got this tattoo to break it up so I could look at something else. And then you're like, whoa, I mean, here's a guy screaming for self-love, right? So at the end of the interview, they finally, the whole documentary, they finally bring Mike in today, right? Today, Mike Tyson. They sit down with him. They said, okay, Mike, you've had all the money in the world, literally. You've had all the fame in the world. And we could do a deep dive on that because pre-internet and all that, everyone on the planet knew who Mike Tyson was. You could not escape it, right? That kind of fame is so toxic. So all the money in the world, all the fame in the world. They said, what is success to you now? And Mike says, success to me now is being faithful to my wife, being a good dad, and learning to love myself more. And it was like, oh. So he did this little 5-minute thing on self-love, and it was so awesome. So to what you said, instead of shaming, blaming, guilt, bullshit about, wow, I need to be doing this, it's looking at your DNA strand and going, what gifts do I have? How am I wired, right? So if I'm wired for frugality, how can I make that work, right? And stop shaking the snow globe? Or how am I wired? How can I use this over here? So I take a lot of high achievers through that DNA strand and helping them fall in love with their gifts instead of, again, playing the shame blame game and all that stuff. So powerful what you said, Adam. Thanks for bringing that up because you freed a lot of minds right now just listening, going, oh, it's okay. I do that too. Yay.
Yes. All the frugal nation out there. Now,
yes.
Evan, I want to dive into your brand a little bit because I love, you mentioned a couple of times, like you were doing things. You got some elements out there that are helping a lot of people, but it wasn't always that way. And I'm always interested to kind of see the brand evolution because I know there are a lot of people that are just launching their brand. I'm, 5 years into my podcasting brand and 600 plus episodes, but it's like I'm still evolving. And I often wonder, like you look at your offers and we'll post some of Evan's stuff here in a minute, but like you have high ticket offers, like 50K offers, 100K offers, things like that. How do you go from the guy that's just figuring it out to that? And like, what kind of goalposts should we look out to? How do we do things like that? Because I know that there are people out there that really are going after that type of income, but also that type of impact, more importantly.
Yes. So going back to how we started, it's an inside game. It really is. So, there's all this, well, oh, as soon as I get to this arbitrary number, then I'll be enough to then I can charge this, right? So let's backtrack it for gals and guys here. We'll do both because I know we got both listening, right? So on the male side, right, there's a soul question, right? Remember we talked about ask better questions? There's a soul question that all males want to know, and there's two things. And they want to hear them from their father, and then as they get older, they're still trying to get these answered. So the first question is, as males, we want to know that we're prized as kids. We want to know that we're prized by our father. And even just hearing the term prize fighter, like still elicits something. I'm like, I want to be prized. I want to be prized. Because I come from a normal dysfunctional family, right? Yeah. No dad in the house, raised by a single mom, all the stuff, right? So I was never prized by my father. And then as you get older, what the male soul question that every male wants to know is, do I have what it takes? And that goes directly to your question, right? Of like, well, how do you get your brand to this point? How do you get this, right? When do you know you have what it takes? Well, after I have 10,000 downloads, then I know I have what it takes, right? And then that question gets answered, but it's only temporary, right? And no, it has to be 1 million downloads. It has to be 10 million. It has to be 100 million. It has to be 1 billion downloads, right? So these soul questions of do I have what it takes? If you're trying to get these soul questions answered through the world, through arbitrary numbers, through other people's opinions, okay? Again, you're in a doom loop of pain and problems. Now, for the female soul, it's the two questions are, the first one is, am I treasured? Women want to know if they are treasured, okay? Am I treasured? So we'll go a little dark off topic, right? People caught up in the sex trade, whether it's strippers or whether it's, prostitution, all that stuff. Those women do not feel treasured. Okay. And they want to feel treasured. I ran into a gal, amazing gal. She runs a nonprofit and she rescues women out of strip clubs, out of sex trafficking, all of this. So she'll go to the high end, like, hey, you got to drop $5,000 if you want to walk in this place. She'll do a little gift bag and she'll bring it in to the girls and it says, you're treasured. And these girls just melt. And that's what they've been wanting the whole time is, am I treasured? So the second soul question for women as they get older is, am I enough? And you see the beauty industry prey on that, right? 24/7. They tell women, you're not enough. So buy this and you'll be enough, of course. Oh, that mascara didn't make me enough. No, I got to get this mascara. I got to get this, or I got to get the face thing, right? Everything is about you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough. So these soul questions need to be answered before you can get clarity on your brand. Because too often people try to create this thing, right? Again, it goes back to why people self-destruct, right? You always go, man, what happened to so-and-so, right? He had this awesome podcast. He had this cool hair. He had everybody. He had it all, right? Men, women, all of this, right? Name any A-lister, any music, any people that have fallen off, right? You go, man, whether it's in the faith world, famous preachers, televangelists, whether it's, again, music, entertainment, sports, right? You go, man, what happened to these people? And it all comes back to them trying to get these questions answered from outside sources. And it goes back to what you talked about, the DNA strand. And if you don't love yourself, you'll never have an authentic brand. And therefore, you will never be able to make the impact you want to make and sustain it. There's a lot of people that make these great impacts and they crash and burn, right? And then again, the compare. So what about so-and-so? He's not right. Yeah. When I'm talking about so-and-so, I'm talking about you. So it's really dialing down to the root of saying, hey, do I love me? Because if I love me, then I know I'm worthy. Then I know I have value to add to the world. And then it's about getting clear on, okay, who is my audience? Who do I want to work with? Do I want to chase dollars? I got done chasing money. Money chases me now. And I chase my bride around the house all day. That's how we live. Okay. So, but again, if you don't have the inner clarity, you're never going to have the outer clarity. And you can pay people to make cool logos and do all this stuff for you, but it's an inside job. And if you don't get that done first, you're going to self-destruct like everybody else. And everybody's going to go, oh, Adam, remember that so-and-so that came, man, remember that guy? Yeah, man, I helped this guy make $10 billion. And then he crashed and burned, right? So it all comes back to that inside game. And very few people are willing to do the work. I love The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's a Disney Plus TV show, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Oh, dude, they are that show is so incredible. There's so many great things in there. But one of my favorite scenes is when Falcon is looking at the Winter Soldier and going, do the work. Hey, he's like, you want some tough love? Yeah, do the work.
Yeah.
Right? Do the work of falling in love with you, because until you do that, you can't outsource that. You can't hire that. I don't care how cool your website is, how cool your logo is. If you don't look in the mirror and love you, nothing works. And you may achieve all these milestones and it just gets emptier and emptier, emptier and emptier. People all the time, Adam, talk about, oh, these, you hear the buzzwords, underserved communities, the inner city, the ghetto, this, that, whatever. That's where all the pain and problems are. No, the pain and problems are in the high-end neighborhoods, okay? The pain and problems are the neighbor I have down the street who lives in a $15 million house and is miserable, okay? Those are the biggest pain and problems because they have the resources to be more destructive. So it all circles down to that inside game and starting there. And so I think some of these people with the least broadband on their podcast, right, that are, doing it like, I really have this message, I want to get out there, this is awesome. You got to go back to that person who originally didn't care what the downloads were.
Right.
And we're all about the message, right? And sure, there's tools and things to use in business, right? We talk about, there's not just one ingredient, right? But if you don't have the core ingredients, right, I don't care what you do and how much money you spend, you're never going to get to where you want to go.
So let's keep kind of going down this rabbit hole. I want to hear some more stories from you because I know you've got them and you're a great storyteller. So I'll let you choose. If you want to do both, you can. I would love to hear the story of the first time you put an offer out there. And like, I remember the first time I put something out there, it was a $7 membership. I spent months like recording out the course videos. Like, I'm just like, if I just get 1,000 people to sign up for this, man, I'm making 7,000 a month. This is going to be great. No one signed up. My mom didn't even sign up. Like, no one. $7. I couldn't get $7 from a family member, So I either want to hear the first time you put something out there and or something that just did not go well, like a crash and burn offer or event, no one showed up, or something like that. Let's hear some of the dirt, man.
Oh, yeah. So that's, that would be about a 2-year continually running show to get to all of them. But I'll tell you what was the most frustrating for me, and then I'll give you a specific example. What was the most frustrating with me is that I had success in other businesses. And I was like, well, I've done it in this business. It should be easy to do it over here. Okay. And it wasn't translating. And I was like, and I kept trying to shortcut everything. And man, I've done it over here. I should be able to instantly do it over here, instantly. So I finally had to get clarity and realize like, wow, that other business took me this long of a runway to get to this point. So expecting that I can do it like that, when you're climbing a mountain, I do a long in-depth talk called, it's about mastery. It's about climbing peaks and talking about how it's really the lifestyle of a peak to peak principle. But when you're climbing that peak, you can either focus on climbing or you can look around like, where's the helicopter, right? Or, look how far everyone else is, right? It's like, no, I'm doing my climb, right? And there is no helicopter, right? So that was one thing, a mindset thing. But I remember I launched Adam way too early. This was, this was 2000. I'm going to say 15 years ago. I wanted to build a relationship marketing, network marketing, multi-level marketing company based on a video platform. And I know some other people have tried it recently, but this is way before the bandwidth and all this stuff. And,
right.
My thing was, I think it was $5 or $7. It was one of those, right? But it was in a multi-level principle. Like, okay. And I made I did the comp plan by hand, right? I figured it out. Like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to make all these videos. We're going to launch it. It's going to be awesome. And that was an epic fail of like, wait a minute, how come it's not, how come I don't have 2 billion members overnight and it's not doing this and this and this and this. So that one I was way too early, epic fail. And solely it was because of my impatience as a leader and not doing the work. And I have had, I'll tell you this, as far as business success, all of my great successes have always been other people's ideas. People that have come to me and said, hey, Ev, you should do this. Or, hey, Ev, check this out. Hey, Ev, you need to do this. And every time, Adam, like multi-million-dollar home runs, every time my first reaction was, I don't want to do that. That's stupid. That's how wise I am, right? And they're like, no, and they'd have to talk to me and be like, okay. So now, finally, at this stage in life, when someone brings something to me like, hey, this is pretty amazing, you should check it out. And I go, that's the stupidest thing ever. Then I know I need to pay attention.
Multi-million
yes,
idea.
It's like, ooh, I need to pay attention to that. So that was the other thing of like realizing like, wait a minute. I don't have to invent it. I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. There's so much stuff that's just going to come to me. I just have to pay attention. And, the classic ego, right? Like ego will kill so much of everything. And that's for me personally. I don't know about you, Ahmed. That's for me is what my biggest issue was in some of these spaces was my ego was edging everything. My ego was edging my success out. Because I got too much compare-itis, too much was this guy doing, too much, and it was just like, So I finally got to this point of like, man, what is the issue? And the real issue was I didn't love me. And I was like, oh, wow. And it took someone else, right, in a mastermind type setting to point that out. Because here's the thing, Adam, you've listened to your show maybe once or twice, right? All the podcasters listening, you ready? Raise your hand. Okay. How many times have you listened to your show and thought, man, do I really sound like that? Right? Like, I don't sound like that, do I? Right? Okay. So we don't sound like we think we sound.
Yep.
Right? If we see ourselves on video, we don't look like we think we look. Right? Clearly. Okay. So what that tells us is we can't see reality. We are unqualified seeing reality. We are inside the bottle. Therefore, we cannot see the outside label. Right? So that's why you need other people's help to say, hey, what does my label look like? Because I can't hear clearly, right? I clearly cannot hear what I sound like. I cannot clearly see what I look like. So I need someone to help and guide, show me what this label looks like. And then I need to learn how to love that label. That's why I got such a great reaction. The movie Greatest Showman, the music, right? Just the lyrics, right? This is me.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to say, this is me and being okay with it and turning your shame into success and your guilt into greatness. So until I did that, I met with so many epic fails built on my ego and I want it now and I'm just going to pay this and this is going to work. And So yeah, I remember doing an offer. I'll share this one. We had it set, right? Had the room. I was launching my new movie that I did with Joel Osteen and Darren Hardy and Zig Ziglar, and I was the man, right? And we had the room filled. We had all these amazing people. I had my cameraman there getting footage for me, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna make this offer, and everyone's gonna run the back of the room. And I remember I made the offer. Crickets. And I was like, what just happened? And it took someone sharing, and I didn't even know that it happened. I was like, yeah, right when you got to this offer, you did this weird thing with your body language and this and this and this. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was totally oblivious to it, like in denial. That didn't happen. I was doing this. And it reminded me of like, yeah, the other key thing too to understand is when you see someone do something incredibly amazing, and it looks really easy, that's when you know it's the most difficult thing on the planet. And we get caught up into this, like, oh, I can do that. That's so easy. It's like, no, like I didn't rehearse my offer beforehand. I was just like, I'm just going to show up and be me because I made this movie and I'm awesome, right? I didn't do any of that, right? And the results showed of 0. And I had to like, eat that humble pie again and eat it again. And realize like, man, when you see stuff, when you see whether podcast guys, you see professional speakers, you see people like, I don't know if it's sports right now is basketball's going on, right? You don't even have to know anything about basketball, but you could watch, there is a noticeable difference when the star players are not playing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't even know basketball, but that dude shouldn't be doing that. And why is he throwing it over there, right? How come, right? It's just, so the people that are doing things amazing, make it look so easy. We get caught up in thinking that, oh, I can have it tomorrow. And we get caught up in believing those email marketing that we get. Oh, I can get rich tomorrow. I can crush it tomorrow. Or I can do this and grab right all. But man, it takes so much. And there's a reason, going back to this, there's a reason they don't televise MBA practices. because it's boring. Like, do I really want to see some guy practicing free throws? No, right? But it's the practice they put in gets the end result of these amazing shots that win games, right? So it's just that reminder, again, that we can't see reality. So we see someone do something like, Adam just woke up out of bed and did this podcast and it's so amazing. And how come I can't do it? It's like, no, there's so much work that goes into things, and not trying to cheapen the process through a great hook on a LinkedIn ad or a, get billions of clients tomorrow, right? That you cannot shortchange greatness. There has to be work and skill and development and put in. So for those podcasters that are like, have I been doing this for so long, right? When's it going to happen? You're right where you should be. Because that's what everybody's saying, right?
Yep.
And those that want you to believe, right? Or even the ones that are like, well, what about this guy who just started his podcast and overnight he got 10 billion, right? Well, there's a lot of stuff he did way before that to pave the way that you didn't see or you don't know about. So I'm so thankful you asked about the epic fails and all that stuff, because we've all been there, and that's part of the deal. Like, even look at the stats, right? Guess what? It's a big deal, right? Like, if you look at the things of the stats of the shots missed and made, they miss more shots than they make, and they're getting paid millions of dollars. So do you think you could walk into an NBA? Oh yeah, I'd go 10 for 10 from the 3-point line. I'm so amazing. No, you wouldn't, right? So it's just, that's part of the ingredient, right? So again, it's instead of going into the shame and the guilt, right, of like, oh, I failed. It's only a failure if you don't learn something. So I'll share this with you. I used to call them failures. Now I call them learning lessons, and I equate the dollar amount to what I would have lost to like a degree. So for example, I have a PhD in real estate development.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I have a master's degree in the automotive industry. Okay. I didn't fail. I didn't lose money. I learned. So I put those degrees on my wall. Like, okay, that's an automotive industry car dealership lesson. That's a lesson on real estate. And I thought, since I had my PhD in real estate, Adam, that I was past all that, but I had to make another AA degree. I had to get an AA degree just recently in real estate to remind myself of what's going on. So this whole like trying to run away from failure and all this stuff, it's all part of the journey. So it goes back to Deion Sanders, Lowest Point, all this stuff of like, man, if you're not excited about doing your podcast, if you're not like, man, I love this, then something's wrong. Yeah. And it's great to have goals and all this stuff. But again, if you're not happy now, you're never going to be happy. If you're not satisfied now, you're never going to be satisfied, because the joy is the journey and the journey is the joy. And it took me so long to get there, Adam. So anyone I can help fast forward that is such a blessing and a joy for me to do.
And you're helping a lot of people, and you got some things out there cooking right now that we're able to plug some people into. So I don't want to let you escape our grasp here without promoting what you've got going, because I know that people are listening in or watching live and they're like, this dude's got something going here. I might want to dive a little bit deeper on what he's got going. So what are you doing right now? Like with your masterminds, your events, your special experiences? I feel like I can't even call what you do a mastermind or an event. It is truly an experience that you're like putting on for people. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the secret. I learned that from living in Southern California. I studied the Disneyland model. We had, annual passes forever. And I studied it from all aspects of trying to figure out, how is it that Disney can do this and no one else can, right? And it all starts with the E word. It's all about the experience. And so for you podcasters out there, if you look at your podcast as an experience, it's going to shift how you do things. It's going to shift what you create, because it all comes down to the experience. I used to say our events are highly experiential. Now I just say come experience, right? So the thing I'm super excited about right now, this is something for a specific niche audience. So this gal taught me this, and I want to remember her name or give her credit, but she says, you want to be a dog whistle to your audience. And for those that don't recall what a dog whistle is, dogs can hear at a different pitch, or they can hear frequencies that we can't hear. So you would blow a whistle, you're like, it's not working. And every dog's going, so I want to be the dog whistle to the entrepreneurs out there that want to grow in their faith, that want to grow in their health, that want to grow in their relationships, and want to grow massively in their finances, and don't want to lose out, right? They don't want to be like, yeah, I want to be mega rich, but divorced 20 times. Or, you know what? I don't want to be mega rich and still like leave God behind, right? So if you want all those areas to be rocking, we have a specific group built for that. And it's really built a lot around purpose. So it's about finding your purpose, mapping it out, and living it. That's the key, right? A lot of people are like, yeah, I know what to do, but I'm just not doing it. It's about living it. And so that's our Session 5 group. So I don't know if you're going to put it up or whatever, but we have a cool thing called session5welcome.com. And there's a little short video. And if that video resonates with you, then we want to welcome you. And there's a membership component. There's a mastermind component. And we're doing one this weekend. Super excited. We have one for women only, one for men only. And it's just an exciting group of a niche specific group. And then for those that are like, okay, that sounds cool, but I want something more about this and more about business and this, you can check out the evanmoney.com website. And there's tons of material on there to go through and cool videos and lots of excitement. So there's 2 places people can go.
Outstanding. And we've got session5welcome.com scrolling. If you guys are watching live or if you're watching the replay on YouTube, it's on the ticker, session5welcome.com, session5welcome.com. Dude, you've got so many good things going. And I'm so glad that our mutual friend Paul introduced us, because I gain inspiration from people like you. I love seeing the journey. I love that you're willing to be open and honest and share the not so great stuff that's happened. The time that you made that big offer out there and 0 people signed up and no one ran to the back of the room, because there's a lot of people out there. We see the successes. We go, oh, Evan's got these high ticket offers and he's just killing it. He's hanging out with Kevin Durant and all these people and really cool stuff happening. But like you said, we don't see you putting in the reps for years and decades and the work that you're putting in. And I interviewed Michael Hyatt, one of my favorite authors, and he talked about achievement-based goals versus habit goals. And we see those achievement goals as you cross certain finish lines, but we don't see you putting in the reps, those habit goals every single day, putting in the work on you, like you've talked about so much here, how important that is. So I love finding people like you, man.
I've never heard this anywhere else. So there's some people that resonate with that, but I've called them. Thank you. I got to look at Michael Hyatt's stuff again now, but I call them lifestyle goals, because per the sports things, right? If the ball gets thrown to you and you got to think about what you're going to do with it, it's too late. Right. So if it's a habit, if it's a lifestyle goal, so I have specific finite goals, but I also have lifestyle goals to where I don't have to think about it because it's a lifestyle. So I want to encourage everyone to double down on that, whether it's the lifestyle or the habits, right? But if it's that lifestyle, you don't have to think about it. Like for me, porn is not an issue, right? Because I'm in these lifestyle goals. I don't have time for it. It's just but if you got to think about, oh, do I watch porn today or not, right? You got to get in these states, right, where what you want becomes a lifestyle. So I have a lifestyle of romancing my bride. That's just a lifestyle. Okay. And part of it is getting remarried every year. That helps with that, right?
Yep.
We'll get to these lifestyle goals so you don't have to think about it. So it's just, that's what you do instead of, the arbitrary checklist, right? I got to check off my goals. I do this. It's like, no, this is just a lifestyle, right? This is how I live. And when it's a lifestyle, right, then you don't have time to get caught up in the comparison. Well, I should be here. I should be there, right? It's just like, no, this is my life. And then along the way, you get to celebrate and have those moments of, hey, we won the Super Bowl. Cool. All right. Yay. This is awesome. Okay. I'm going to love the trophy and kiss it. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Right. Keep going with the lifestyle rather than just being finite focused. So thank you for sharing that, because that's huge.
Well, dude, I'm so glad that you made time for me, because I know for a fact that there's a lot of places you could be spending your time right now. So the fact that you're investing some of that with our show, with our audience here, that means a heck of a big deal to me, Evan. I just appreciate you. And you're somebody that if you guys got a little fire from this, dive into Evan's world. Follow him on social. I'll make sure I have all the important links in the show notes or the video notes. We got the link for session5welcome.com and the ticker below. Get plugged in, because plugging into people like Evan, once you plug into Evan, you're borrowing his energy until you kind of level up your own. That's the secret to having mentors, in whether it's in podcasting, entrepreneurship, or in life in general. That's something that we all need. So, Evan, I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you for spending some time with us here today.
Adam, man, honored to be here, and just again, so thankful you cut your hair to make me feel good.
All right, pod pals, we gave you a lot to think about here today. Really think about what you want, how you want to show up, and who you truly want to be without comparing yourself to all those other people out there. And as always, I want to send you off wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you on the next episode.